Okay, good evening, everybody. Welcome once again to the Meat and Potato Show, conservative talk and awesome rock. I am your host, Christopher Mader, and so great, very excited to be back on the Meat and Potato Show here on YouTube again. As I said before last night, talking to Dan Fishman, we took some time off, had to move, started a new job, and of course we had the symposium on August 30th. And my guest, one of the great people who showed up there, we'll be talking to him in a few minutes. Mark Fisher joins us tonight on the show. But as is the tradition here on the Meat and Potato Show, and something that I said I've been reintroducing, it is time for the diatribe. Now, the diatribe can be found on the blog site, the lexingtongreen.blogspot.com, the lexingtongreen.blogspot.com. And one of the great things about doing the diatribe now on my own show is I don't have to do the disclaimer. When I was at the radio station, I would always have to do a disclaimer saying, you know, the opinions expressed in the Lexington Green are not the opinions here at the radio station. Well, I'm happy to announce that, yes, the opinions expressed on the Lexington Green are the opinions of this radio network, because it's all part of the Meat and Potato Show. And we are a no apologies network anyway. And besides, you know what? If the content of the show offends you, there's cookies and milk in the next room, and that's why you pay a therapist $200 an hour. So, without further ado, what the hell just happened? I mean, apparently Massachusetts voters never learn a lesson. Mass voters are like the consummate newbie in a prison full of hardcore lifers. The established GOP and the DNC purposely dropped the issue's soap in the shower. And, of course, we, the voters, just bend right over and whammo. You know what happens. You know, the crooks don't even give us the courtesy of a reach around to delude us into thinking that we made an informed decision. And I'll tell you who made an informed decision. It was the voters who voted for the outsiders who ended up losing. Well, in most cases, Warren Tolman was an idiot. But the upside of all of this was at least the the Democrat Party ended up with a split vote. I mean, neither Coakley, Grossman, or any of the other people really won a decided majority of the voters. So that might actually help us out come November. The only disturbing aspect of that fact is that it is obvious that Massachusetts Democrats could give a rat's ass where their socialism comes from. More taxes, more regulations, more rules, more mandates, more laws, more ordinances. Who cares, right? Where does it come from? It doesn't matter who's in charge. Massachusetts Democrats just love to show off those designer shackles, don't they? Oh, hey, can I get those engraved? Oh, how silly of me that I would have to pay more for that? No. How silly. But how the hell did Charlie Baker make the grade? I mean, I watched my guest, Mark Fisher. He crisscrossed the state from one end to the other, from Pittsfield to Plymouth, attending every single event he could cram into a 24-hour day. I'd run into Mark several times during the election. Each time he remembered who I was, greeted me warmly. He attended my candidate symposium, and every answer he gave that night was direct, simple, and to the point. Wait a minute. Come to think of it, it's probably why he ended up losing the primary. I also ran into Charlie Baker several times during the campaign. Each time he would stare at me like a gaunt concentration camp victim. There are only so many times you can say to somebody that you meet, "Hey, it's Christopher Mader from the Meat and Potato Show." "Hey, it's Christopher Mader from the Meat and Potato Show," before you realize either someone is just not listening to you or they're dumber than a box of donuts. Maybe in Charlie Baker's case, this is probably why he won the primary. Although I invited Mark to my show every time we met, I understood he was a busy guy. He's out campaigning. I just told you, the guy's crisscrossing all over the state. He was always gracious, apologetic for not being able to come on. And the day that he personally sent me a message that he would be attending the symposium, I decided, all right, I'm going to leave this poor guy alone from now on. But no one from Charlie's team returned the half a dozen invites I sent them. I personally spoke to Karen Polito at an automatic gas tax party. After we finally got the question onto the ballot, got all our signatures, Karen Polito showed up, kept again. "Hi, it's Christopher Mader, Meat and Potatoes. Christopher Mader, Meat and Potatoes." And you could just see my words flying past them. Karen turns to one of her campaign staffers and says, "Give this guy a card. Let's get on his show." And she's like, "Oh, call me tomorrow." No one remembered who I was. No one remembered anything. Nobody knew what I was talking about. Now, mind you, folks, this dynamic duo could actually be our next governor and lieutenant governor. Scary, isn't it? Well, I'll tell you an interesting story associated with the Baker campaign. And I'll just claim here and now that this has nothing to do with Charlie or Karen, so you can't blame them. They're running a campaign that what happens individually at these offices they have no control over. But I'll also include a link, and it's on the blog side, of another thing that happened to me running into the Baker-Polito campaign team, and that's on the blog site here as well. And it gives you an idea of, what we're dealing with here. Well, at the early stages of planning the August 30th candidate symposium, my buddy Wayne and I, we attended a Republican Town Committee meeting at 18 Grafton Street, down in the first floor office. This was late in June of this year, and after the meeting, I motioned to Wayne. I said, buddy, hey, come with me. We had to go into the back storage room, and I found a whole bunch of white chairs that were there, and I pointed to the chairs. I said, I knew these chairs were here. I said, they've always been here. We're going to need these chairs for the symposium. So let's remember they're here, and when we get that date, we'll get hold of Brad or somebody or Ted or whoever's, at the building, and we'll come down and to get the chairs. Anyway, long story short, between then and August 30th, the Baker team moved in to that first floor office. And so as time is going on, I'm doing my interviews there at the Liberty Clubhouse, and every time I was there, I would check to see if somebody was at the Baker office so I could speak to them about the event and the chairs, and no one was ever there. And I was there at Brad's building all different times, all during the week, at all different times, weekends, nights, days, everybody. I'd go downstairs, I'd peer in the window, I'd poke into the window, I'd be like, there's nobody here. So as we got closer and closer to the symposium, I got a little concerned. I got to get these chairs. So anyway, the Brandling manager gives me the phone number to somebody who heads up the office down there. This guy named Ryan, and that's all I'm going to say. So I called him. Instantly, I went to voicemail, so I left him a message, left him a phone number, explained the whole thing to him. About 10 minutes later, he calls me back. I said to him, did you get my message? He says, no, I did not. So then I repeated the message. And he says, I don't know anything about any chairs. And he says, but besides, how do you know this? Have you been inside of our office, he says to me. And he's starting to get a little testy at this point. And so I said to him, yes, I have been in your office. I've been in that office a million times since 2010. I've attended parties, meetings, campaign events. I even worked for Scott Brown. I worked for several other campaigns, and that was always the office that we went to. I was at a Republican Town Committee meeting a couple of months ago. That's why I'm calling you. Well, Saturdays are a busy calling night for us, and besides, we're going to need all of those chairs anyway, so I'll have to talk to my boss and get back to you. You see, at this point in time, I knew that Ryan was just lying to me, and this is what I'm talking about. This is what we're dealing with here. Because think about it. At first, he didn't know anything about the chairs, and then suddenly he needs these chairs for a Saturday night that I know nobody's going to be there for anyway. Suddenly he needs these chairs that he didn't know anything about earlier. Sure enough, we had the symposium that Saturday night. I actually went downstairs and checked. The office was closed. There was nobody there. So the next day I ran into Brad Wyatt. I told him the situation. I said, hey, Brad, do you think you could talk to somebody? I mean, come on, do you think we're going to need those chairs? Brad turns to me and he says, well, you know why he said that to you, don't you? And I said, I didn't know. I had no idea. He says, because Mark Fisher's showing up at the symposium, that's why. And I got news for you. Brad could not have been more correct. In fact, of all the candidates who signed on for the symposium, none of the candidates riding Baker's coattails, who originally agreed to attend, they didn't even bother showing up. All of the grassroots candidates, including my guest tonight, who put up their own necks, their own money, their own good names, put it all up on the line, they did show up. And folks, this may be the last time we see a candidate like Mark Fisher run for office in Massachusetts, given the way he was treated at the convention, treated by the Mass GOP, treated by the press during his entire legal battle to stay on the ballot, and the complete lack of support that the entire GOP and press in general just did not give him. It will exclude any and all possibility of a meaningful outside candidate with straight answers to ever choose to run for office here in Massachusetts, ever again. And that is the diatribe. Ladies and gentlemen, he's been sitting here patiently, and I've been waiting for months to get this guy on the show. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show, Mark Fisher. Mark, welcome to the Meat and Potato Show. So glad to finally have you on here, sir.
Hey, Chris, thanks for having me.
Great. So, That was a little story there that went on. The other link that I put in there was, I think it was last November. The Baker team puts out a Facebook event page. Oh, come join our fundraiser at such and such a place in Shrewsbury. And so I did. I signed on. I was like, yeah, I'll come. And I even signed on as the Meat and Potatoes. I pretty much identify myself primarily as that because that's my company and that's what I'm doing and that's how people are coming to know me. And, Chris Mader, who's this guy? And it's like, but if you say Meat and Potatoes or M&P 2012, it's like, oh, that guy. It's like everybody knows what I'm talking about. So I signed up as that, and I even said, I'll be representing press. So, even though I don't technically have press credentials, it's my company and this is what I do. Everybody knows it. So I show up there, and they're saying, well, are you going to make a donation? And I said, no, I can even see my name on the list. I pointed to it. I said, see, it says right there, Meat and Potato Show. It's like, I'm on the list. Oh, wait a minute. And then she's motioning to somebody. Anyway, long story short, I ended up getting basically shown the door. It's like, no, we don't want any press here. And the guy I'm talking to, maybe it was this Ryan guy, and I just didn't know it at the time. He's like, oh, this must be your first campaign. Like, so anyway, go on, Mark. Go ahead.
It's funny, the story that you told me, we ran into a similar thing. It was in January. There was a belated Christmas party at a restaurant. It was the Billerica Republican Town Committee having it. And neither Charlie nor I knew that we were going to be attending the same thing. We just happened to bump into each other. And the guy handling the campaign was taking photographs. And this fellow Ryan that you're talking about came up to us and said, oh, you can't take any photograph. And Mike and I started arguing with him, and I said to him, don't worry about it. But I said to Ryan back, I said, you can take as many photographs of me as you want. I mean, you're running for public office. I mean, my goodness. You said something earlier, Chris, about being straightforward answers. I mean, I've never run for office before, but one of the things that I've always liked to see in a candidate, and hopefully I did it when I was running, is that you have to be candid. Candidates should be candid, and that's allowing the media to vet you so that the voters know who they're voting for, and to provide straightforward answers and let the press take as many photographs and videos and invite them in. I mean, I just think that's part and parcel of running for office.
Sure, right. I remember when you were at the Duke Pesta thing in Shrewsbury.
Oh, yeah.
And, the Duke Pesta, he's like, well, let me put you on record right now. And he wanted to ask you about, Common Core. And I thought to myself, Duke thinks he's putting Mark on the spot here. But it's like, I know what Mark's going to say. Sure enough, you sat up and you said, no, I'm not going to, no. You say no to the money. And it's like, we're not going to be part of this. And I was like, yes. I was like, that's classic Mark right there. But you're right. I mean, isn't the term candidate? You're supposed to be candid. You're supposed to be in the public eye. You're supposed to be in film, on television, in the news. That's
the way I always interpreted it, Chris.
So let's talk about what happened during the election. Shake out some of the numbers. How did the numbers end up for you after the primary?
We got a little more than a quarter of the vote. I think 25 point something of the vote. So 1 out of 4 voters. In Western Mass, we won my hometown of Westville. We won 17 cities and towns out in Western Mass. But it's a funny thing. Where we had the resources to work things, we did fairly well. I mean, we had over 41% of the vote in Springfield.
Wow.
Which was kind of surprising because, Charlie had told them that even if the voters repeal the casino deal, he was going to file legislation that would allow them to have a casino in Springfield. So, I mean, there was some specific targeting of the Springfield area by the Baker campaign, and they won it, but we got over 41% there. But, it's funny, given the nature of the campaign and how we weren't allowed to use certain offices, the Mass Victory offices of the Republican Party, and on and on and on and on.
Yeah.
I mean, losing is losing, but there are some things to take away from it that we can learn from it. And
well, this is what I'm talking about in the blog piece about the way you were treated, and one of the things that it has been a mainstay of the Meat and Potato Show is that I prefer to interview the outsiders, the grassroots people, and I've even used the term, and some people say, you shouldn't say that because you're what's the term? You're jinxing the candidate, but it's like a lot of these candidates that I talk to, they haven't got a snowball's chance in hell of winning. They're not going to be on the news. They're not going to be in the newspaper. They're horribly short of money. They're doing everything, like I said in the piece. They're putting up their own money, their own necks, their own good name. These guys are never going to make it. So that's why I want them on my show. And you come on the show as often as you can. Let's keep in touch. Let's cover the event. Let's give you whatever I can give you as far as free press, free advertising, because of this. Because they always pick the golden child. I mean, look at all the Democrats. I mean, that's a huge field. I forget what the number is. What is it, like 7 or 9 different Democrats running for governor? But everyone's all on Coakley. You know what I'm saying? They pick the golden child. Take it from there. What do you think of that?
Well, interesting. I know when we got into the race, Chris, we knew just because of the issues that we were standing on, we were not going to get any support at all from the Mass GOP. So it's not surprising that some of the things I mentioned about not being able to use their resources, we expected that. One thing I didn't expect was how long-reaching their influence was. For example, we kicked off, I remember you being there in Auburn back on 17th of December. We were in a poll against Martha Coakley the following month in January, and we received 30% of the vote against Martha. At the time, Charlie got 36% of the vote, so we were 6 points behind Charlie. That is the last time that we were ever included in a poll running against Martha Coakley.
Wow.
Now, the interesting thing is the Boston Globe was running and still is running weekly polls in the governor's race, and they're including all the independents as well they should. I mean, Jeff McCormick, Evan Falvey, Scott Lively.
Right.
But if you group them all together, I get way more than what they get combined, and yet they would not include me in the polls.
Jeez.
And so, why is that? I mean, this is you're in the media. Why would they be excluding somebody who's on the ballot, who fought to get on, had to file a lawsuit to get on, and they're not including me in any of these polls week after week after week? And same thing with other conservative talk radio. We were sort of banned from them. And our thinking is that there's a lot of money in ads, and if they're going to the other side's going to withhold ads if they mention Mark Fisher, that carries a lot of influence.
Exactly right, and they probably have, like you said, really conservative talk radio. I know that after the symposium, quite literally, you went over to CRN afterwards, and again, this brings me back to what I said about how you were everywhere, which is why it's like I just can't understand how you only end up with 25% of the vote. A buddy of mine, John Abramson, he dropped his camera off and stuff. He said, I've got something to do, but he said, Chris, take my camera, film it for me. He comes back at around midnight, and he says, he pulls in, and he's like, are you listening to the radio? I was like, no, dude, I'm busy. I'm packing stuff up. I'm busy. And he says, Fisher's over at CRN. I look at my watch. I was like, we just wrapped up like an hour ago. It's like, yep, he's on CRN. But, but you were actually banned from, I mean, they didn't let you on. Were you banned, like officially banned, or was it just, we'll return your phone calls, and then they never returned your phone calls?
When we kicked off in December, we filed our paperwork last November. The first person in the media that we went to was Howie Carr. We gave him a bunch of information, literature, and stuff about the campaign, and we were pleading with him to get on the show. And the only time he asked us to be on was the day before we were having a press conference in Boston to announce what we were going to do about the lawsuit. And he wanted a scoop. And I said, no, Howie. I mean, that's why we're having a press conference. I mean, if I give it to you now, it sort of defeats the purpose of having a press conference.
Exactly.
So to serve his purpose, he was going to have us on. And then the last time, just before, the primary, when things broke about illegal immigration, he had me on the counter. Charlie's agreeing with the ball about illegal immigration. But other than that, no, it was very difficult to get a hearing. But here's the thing, Chris. So we expected certain things in the Mass GOP, and we got them full force. But one of the takeaways here, and I think this is where we can make improvements on the conservative side, is just how fractured the leadership is of the conservative groups that are out there. And I'm just going to give you 2 examples, and it starts off with ongoing incidents on primary day. I voted in Shrewsbury on primary day. I went down to Fairhaven, drop off some signs, and I went up to Westfield. And I'm standing outside one of the polling places. I'm getting phone calls on the campaign phone, and people are asking 2 things. One, are you in support of Second Amendment? And I said, yeah, of course. I told them the story, and then they would ask, is this primary day?
Oh my God.
And one guy said to me, listen, I've got 5 other guys. We're going to go out and we're going to vote for you. They were pro-Second Amendment. And so I got 6 votes there. And then on the pro-life issue, I mean, I got endorsed by Gold the week before the primary. When I filled out their questionnaire in January, they waited and dragged their feet. This is why guys didn't know where I stood on the issue. And the same thing with Mass Citizens for Life.
Right.
Filled out their questionnaire in February. I got endorsed in June. People were calling me on primary day wanting to know if I was pro-life. And what I told them, and one woman said, well, I'm going to go out now with my husband and vote for you. We weren't going to go and vote. That was because a robocall went out the night before the primary mentioning that Mass Citizens for Life had endorsed me and so forth and so on, which is great. But, I mean, it could have been a more sustained effort. And 2 to 3 days after the primary, Mass Citizens for Life comes out with a newsletter saying how that I'm the endorsed candidate for the gubernatorial race. Now, come on, we got to be a little bit more coordinated than that if we want to start winning some of these. Or to have influence. Let your membership know where you stand on these candidates.
Yeah, and don't just do it once. One of the things that's made my show the success that it is on social media is post it early and post it often. You know, don't just publish this one thing saying, yeah, we endorse it. Repeat it 2 or 3 times throughout the year. That doesn't surprise me what you said, because now that I've been recently brought onto the board of directors at my Worcester Tea Party group, mostly because of what I did, with the symposium, how I put it all together and stuff. And so what they want to do is they want to do exactly what you were talking about trying to get more organization, get other Tea Party groups, because basically in Massachusetts there's hundreds of Tea Party groups. You can go to any city or town and there's a Tea Party group there. And what we want to do is we want to try to put everything under an umbrella group. And I've been in conversation with a guy who runs a national organization, not the Tea Party Express and the Tea Party Patriots. No, he's doing it on a national level, and he and I have been in conversation. He's coming on the show, so we're working towards that. So I think that's going to be kind of like the blueprint for 2015, heading into 2016, so that we don't have this problem again, this disorganization that's going on out there, and that, we can be more formidable as far as a political force. There are some Tea Party groups, they actively, in their charters, they say, we do not endorse candidates, we do not back candidates, and I understand that. They don't want to pigeonhole, they don't want to get behind something and have it blow up in their face. However, there is a way. It's like here on even my show. It's like I've started endorsing people because I'm now my own network. But even when I was on the radio, I had this long conversation with the manager there about, it's like, you can't endorse, because people think we're endorsing it. It's like, no, that's not what I'm going to do. So I had to be very careful in my wording. I would always say I support this candidate, I support the message, and he's coming back on the show, or she's coming back on the show next month or whatever. So I always had to be very careful. But I think what we need to do is kind of like I'm calling it a state convention. That's the wording I'm using now. We'll call it something else once we nail it down. But yeah, get these Tea Party groups together. Let's adopt a platform, adopt a message, adopt a plank, as they say in the old-fashioned political world, and make that the issue, and make that what we stand for. And yeah, actually maybe start backing some candidates. So you're gonna be seeing that. But even now, you had said that you're planning something that's coming up and later on in October. Are you able to speak about that at all, or not?
A little bit. We're trying to get different groups that have been, let's say, not treated fairly by the Mass GOP leadership.
Yeah.
And what I'm talking about, and I'm not going to go back forever, but just go back in recent history. I mean, the last 2 conventions, the state conventions, there were some shenanigans that went on, and how the delegates were treated there. And we know that when the last chair of the party was elected, there were some shenanigans that went on. And then certainly 2 years ago, maybe you know more about this, Chris, than I do, the Liberty Caucus, the delegates for Ron Paul.
That's right.
They were duly elected, and just like we at the convention, they changed the rules at the last minute and
Yep.
wouldn't allow these guys to vote
Yep.
the way they were elected to vote. We're trying to get together those groups of people in an event, and we're gonna invite them all and see who comes, and have spokespersons for the different groups, and talk about ways that we can, be together, not be lone voices out there, but somehow combine our voices and let's be heard. And then also, I want to bring people up to date on the status of our lawsuit. Now, the judge split the lawsuit. One was expedited to get me on the ballot, and it did get me on the ballot, so that's taken care of. The other one was for damages. And here's the thing, that's going to include releasing these tally sheets. Now, the non-GOP's position is, listen, we were transparent about everything that went on, and nothing wrong went on. So my point is, listen, that's fine. Release the tally sheets, and if you're telling the truth, it will be shown in those tally sheets.
Sure,
but
right.
what I'm going to say, where do these 54 blank votes come from? Where do these proxy votes come from? Where do people vote for me and get changed to Baker, like they voted for Christy Meinholz got changed to Baker?
Right.
That's all going to be shown, and
Right.
if they want that to come out, that's fine, because I'd love to have that come out, because the judges said, listen, we're talking about denying ballot access. I mean, that's a criminal offense. I mean, if they're found guilty of this, we could clean house the Mass GOP.
Yeah, and that's unfortunate. That's unfortunate that even you had to do that. And I read all the reports from all the different newspaper articles and stuff. I mean, you were lambasted. People were saying, "Oh, you're going to split the party. This is what happened during Gomez. The party got split because of this fracturing that went on." And I was spiritually, I was behind you on the whole thing. I was like, no, this guy has absolutely every right to do this. And if this stuff hadn't been going on, first of all, it would have been a much better race. You ended up staying on and being on in the race anyway. So you made 2014 probably one of the most exciting gubernatorial races that I've seen in a long time. No, it was. And it was just by having you there. I mean, I remember in 2008 when I had first started the show, and then when what was it? It's 14 now. It was, oh God, Chris, 2010. God, I'm blanking out here. But in 2010, the interviews were really starting to go, and I've been trying to get my host on, and that because I was aware of what was going on, and then of course, in the presidential election, when Ron Paul was running, yes, I was very much aware of that because I was associated with Brad, who owns the building that we had the event on, and I just again every season we keep seeing this, and then come November 4th, we lose, and it's like duh, hello, and then people say, well, maybe if so and so didn't split the vote, maybe if Mark Fisher didn't have his lawsuit. No, first of all, you've got to stop doing this crap to begin with, so that this other crap doesn't happen in the second place. It's like,
that's right. Here's the thing, Chris. Long before I came on the scene, people were saying, "Listen, if you do come on the scene, you're going to fracture the party." My response was, "Are you kidding me? The party's fractured now."
That's right.
I mean, the Mass GOP leadership doesn't want to have anything to do, despite what they say about being Big Tent and open and tolerant and diverse. They don't want to have anything to do with any conservative groups, whether they're Tea Party, Liberty Caucus, Second Amendment, the Massachusetts Republican Assembly, pro-life, pro-family, anything to do with conservative. They don't want to have a part. They keep us fractured, and they've done a really good job at it.
Yeah. And then we end up losing. Go on. I'm sorry to interrupt you.
No. And so here's the thing. They're saying they're all clean and so forth and so forth. But come clean. Release those tally sheets and let's see what it shows. I mean, I told them, this is months ago, I'm willing to drop the lawsuit, forget any press for damages. If you release those tally sheets and they show what you say they show, no impropriety.
Right.
Go ahead. The ball's in your court. They've done nothing.
Certainly. Well, I think we've beaten that dead horse enough, and it's unfortunate because, I was talking, I was on a conference call with Dave Kopass from Red Pill Politics, and we were talking about a lot of different issues, and he had thrown out a number. He says, I'm throwing out a wager, kind of like a football bet. It's like, he says Baker's going to lose by 14 points. I disagreed. I said, I think it's going to be a little closer than that. I said, but I got news for you. Here's my wager. I bet you if he wins, it's going to be so close. We're talking 2, maybe 4 points, something like a real small margin if he wins. But anyhow, but you know what? There was some of the things even you did after primary, post-primary, that there were some people saying, "Oh, let's get a write-in campaign." I know that you kind of put the kibosh on that. It's like, no, we've got, and we do. I completely agree. Am I a Baker fan? No, of course not. But guess what? November 4th, I'm voting for Baker. You think I'm voting for Coakley? I mean, come on, it's like, so this, we've gotta come together on this. And, after the primary, all the arguing and finger pointing, it's all over. We got to head into that end run into November 4th. So anyway, thank you for talking about that. And, let's, I hope you never have to talk about it again. And good luck. I really hope the whole suit comes out in your favor. But anyway, let's get to some ballot questions here.
Sure.
I'm going to skip over question 1, the big one that even I worked on, because I know that you're all for that. But quickly, I mean, what are these people thinking? Let's just make it automatic. It's like, yeah, that way we don't have to vote for it. And I had read the literature, and when I was involved with the organization, I was out there getting signatures myself. I thought to myself, I was like, yeah, these people won't have to put their name down. Yes, Senator so-and-so, Representative so-and-so, and such voted yes to raise the gasoline taxes here. Well, guess what? If their name is attached to that, you think Senator or Representative so-and-so is going to get voted in next year? And then I thought to myself, yeah, I'm having this conversation in my own head. I'm like, yeah, Chris, that's exactly it. They don't, there's no accountability here, is there? So anyhow, so anyway, hopefully this thing will go through. But it even says here that after, that within the last year, the administration has reinstituted tolls, raised registry fees by 20%. Meat and Potatoes was there at the hearing. We filmed that too. And they raised other taxes. And all of this money, it never actually goes to roads and bridges, does it? No. Go ahead.
No, I agree with you. I mean, this should be a no-brainer, and I like to think that the majority of people are going to be against it, as they were against the tech tax.
Yeah.
They didn't have to go to referendum then that the legislators came to their senses. It's surprising in the wake of that they're putting up such a stink about this one. But Martha tried to go to the Supreme Court here in Massachusetts to not to have the ballot question on for the voters, but I'm glad she lost that battle.
Wow, you know what? That's news to me. I did not know that.
Oh, yeah. She thought it was unconstitutional for some reason to have the question 1 on the ballot.
Oh, Jesus.
She lost.
Hey, vote for Coakley for governor there, Massachusetts. Go right ahead. Yeah, just like she understands the Constitution about as well as she understands the gasoline tax, which, according to her, is only 10 cents. And I've written in another blog piece, I was like, of course she doesn't know. When was the last time Martha Coakley actually pulled up to a gas pump, got out of the car, opened up the gasoline thing, and pumped her own gas? Exactly. But anyway, so then there's question 2, expanding the beverage container deposit law. I'm in favor of this. Again,
It's funny. I'm glad. I thought you were going to be against it, and a lot of conservative officials are against it. It's a money grab by the state, so forth and so on. Here's the thing, Chris. I thought about this initially when it went through many years ago. There was an argument that the stores would have to make room for the returns and the machines that would process them, the crushing machines and stuff.
Yeah.
But now that they're there, I'm in favor of this, and here's the reason why. I think it puts the question of whether you're going to pay the extra, 5 cents on water or all the other beverage containers back in the decision-making power of the taxpayers. And if they want to bring them back, that's fine. But not only do they get their nickel back, they reduce the amount of tonnage that's out on the street now, because now we've got curbside. So they're taking tonnage off the street, they're getting their nickel back. If they press their local cities and towns, there should be a reduction in curbside recycling costs that should go back into the pockets of the taxpayers. If they make a concerted effort here, I think they can actually reduce taxes bypassing this.
Wait. What did you say? Reduce taxes in Massachusetts? Hey, Mark, no wonder you lost the primary for crying out loud. But I am for this because, again, if I can pat my own shoulder here, on the Meat and Potato Show, I did a video expose of Worcester's trash problem. I would quite literally, because during this last year, I just started a new job, but earlier this last year I was unemployed, and of course I'm doing my show, and but I was all over Worcester. I was either applying for jobs or covering events that were going on for the show and stuff like that. And because we only had one car and my wife was working, she'd take off with the car. So I would either bike around the city, and this is why my show is portable. Everything I can carry in a couple of bags. But I would have my little camera with me, and I would go out, and I kept noticing, the city is a mess. I mean, it's just trash everywhere. So I started this video expose. It ended up in the Worcester Herald. It ended up all on my YouTube, on social media. Got a lot of hits, got a lot of responses from it. And so I ended up running into some people, and that's when I discovered Question 2. So I wrote the whole story for the Worcester Herald newspaper, and this is exactly why I'm for it, is because I filmed all of this stuff. I would walk up and down the streets, and the video thing is in 8 parts. And I thought to myself, wow, 8 parts? I actually stopped doing it because after a while it just got boring. But I was thinking to myself, really? 8 times just this last year I walked around the city and I was able to film 15, 20 minutes of just the mess that's in the street. And when I heard about this, I thought to myself, I went back over the video and I looked at it, how many times I'd shoot a water bottle, a Gatorade bottle, a Poland Springs, or a Smart Water, and all this. And I thought to myself, that stuff would be off the street. It would be off the street. You're right. It would reduce the tonnage. And I know some people kind of balked at this, even the homeless people who go out there and pick up all the cans, this is something else. I mean, I'm not saying it's the answer to a homeless situation.
No,
but it's, talk about people who go around cleaning up the streets, because I live in Worcester. I'd see it every day. The guy would go through my recycling, and, I wouldn't put my cans out. I'd turn them in. But I thought that. I was like, a guy like that, yeah, you could pick up 10 or 15 cents here, 10 or 15 cents there. By the end of the day, he's got, $10.
Yeah. You're right. It's funny. There are a lot of conservatives who are voting no on this one, but I'm voting yes.
No, we're going to vote. We're going to vote. Yeah. So expanding prohibitions on gaming, and I want to really get into this here. There's a story that was out a while ago that there's a new track grounds being broken down in the Raynham-Taunton area. And, of course, we all remember when they ended dog racing here in Massachusetts. 30,000 jobs just disappeared overnight. Thank you, Massachusetts voters. And, of course, they didn't do anything to save the greyhounds, which was the whole idea in the first place. They just packed up the greyhounds and moved to another state to race there. So, it was a complete boondoggle. And then there was another report in the Boston Conservative newspaper. It's an online newspaper that that somebody had signed up for a gaming license and a track license down at the Plainville where they race the horses down there. So my question is, all right, so you've got all this going on. You've got the ground being broken for a new track, and you've got somebody else who just who applied for licensing. Now we've got this thing coming down. So talk about this. What's going to happen here?
Yeah, it's funny. When I was in the primary campaign, Chris, I was telling people that I don't think Massachusetts would even be considering this casinos in the first place if it was business friendly. If the economy was booming, to me, the casinos are sort of a last resort ditch effort on the part of Democrats to bring some sort of jobs into Massachusetts because they're driving all the other ones out. Liberal New York is now second among the 50 states in job creation because I think it's through the process of elimination, but they're doing a very conservative thing. They're providing tax incentives for some businesses, and they're making it attractive. They're coming in there. They don't have to go down this road of casinos. For some reason, it's run by Democrats. They own the state. They don't want to make it business friendly. So what else can they do? They've driven out all these businesses, and now they're talking about casinos. I just don't think it's the right path. I don't think they're jobs, yes, but I don't like the idea that people have to go to a casino, lose their money, and that's where the revenues come to support the people who have jobs in the casinos. I don't think that's there's not a lot of wealth being created there, you know.
The other thing too is the state. When I remember when the Mashpee Indians were trying to get that thing going on, it was last year or the year before or whatever it was. I discovered that the state, and talk about the mob. You think the mob is bad? The state. I was reading some of the statistics. The state takes like something like 22% right off the top. It's like that's our take. And I was looking at it, I was like, that's a mob shakedown. That's the mob. The mob would do that to you. You open it up a casino, we get our taste. You know what they call a little taste. We just want a little taste.
Yeah, grow the economy, put people back to work, and then tax revenues will go up. I mean, it's you don't have to be raising taxes or bringing in casinos. I just don't think it's the right way to go in Massachusetts. The voters have the choice. And here's the sad thing. I think voters, I mean, yeah, people want jobs, and all the advertisements that they're seeing for the vote no on question 3 for the casinos, they're talking about jobs. They're talking about jobs, and they're right. I mean, given the state of Massachusetts, they know that the state government hasn't been doing its job to bring businesses here, so they make this vote no on this, so that casinos will come. I don't think it's the right long-term solution. But given the state of things in Massachusetts, they may vote it in.
I'm a little confused in the wording here. A no vote would make no changes to the current laws regarding gaming.
Right.
What are the current laws? I'm a little.
Well, we have allowed was it 1 slot parlor and three sites for casinos. I think Plainville, Springfield, was it Revere or?
Yeah. Yeah, one of the letters here was written by the Honorable Dominic Serno, the mayor of Springfield.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He's definitely in favor, and the Chamber of Commerce out in Springfield's in favor of it. A no vote would leave things the way they are, which would allow up to 3 in Massachusetts, one with a slot parlor, right. And a yes vote would repeal that, and casino gambling wouldn't be allowed.
And what's interesting is are you a lifer here? Do you grow up here in Massachusetts?
Oh, yes. Outside of 1 year, I lived in Virginia.
Right. And me too. I'm a lifer here too. I'm a Bay Stater, and my brother years ago, he used to raise and train greyhounds. He was always down there, so I'm familiar with the business. And of course, the racing tracks have always been down there on the South Shore area forever. And I mean, when the thing went through with the dog racing, I mean, all those jobs just dried up, and I thought to myself, it's like, I mean, entire economies had been set up and built around that, and I mean, that was, horse racing, dog racing, that kind of thing. I mean, that's a sport. There's something, I know it's betting, I understand that, but there's a whole industry that's behind that. Like I said, my brother raised and trained greyhounds.
Right.
Talk about the trickle-down theory of economics. It's like, well, he had to set up a farm, he had to hire all sorts of people to run the farm, veterinarians, he had to have inspectors, he had to build everything, he had to hire contractors. So the growth, the spill-off of starting a business, that was there. But I was talking to a guy at a Tea Party meeting over the summer when the one in Worcester ended up going down the tubes. There was going to be a casino down here, and I was for it. I thought, yeah, like a lot of people do, jobs. It's going to be construction jobs, hotel jobs, that kind of thing. But the way it was explained to me is that where it's going to be, because the Canal District here in Worcester had just gone through like a multi-million-dollar renovation. There's businesses and restaurants. I mean, it's the place to be on a Friday and a Saturday night here in Worcester, Massachusetts, that Canal District. And, of course, Brad's building was there, and we at the Tea Party have our meetings down there, and it's just a great place to be. And what he had said to me is that, this place goes up, all of these businesses here that just spent all these millions of dollars getting their doors open, they're going to dry right up. Everyone's going to go to the casinos. So now the way that was explained to me, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm a little torn on it, but I think
some of these questions, I don't, there's not a right or a wrong on them. I'm going to be arguing against the casinos at a Tea Party event in Boston, where they're talking about these 4 issues, the 4 ballot questions. And I'm going to tell them, and this is my personal view, and I'll make my arguments for it. But like I said, I was running for governor. I got to respect the will of the people on this. I mean, this is democracy in action.
Exactly. Exactly. And didn't you say something earlier in the interview that even if this thing goes through, that Baker, if he gets the governor, he's gonna get some legislation for Springfield?
He was in Springfield maybe a week or so before the primary, and he told the voters out there that, yeah, if the ballot question repeals the casino deal, that he would file legislation on Springfield's behalf to allow one in Springfield.
Well, isn't that just nice of him? Oh my God! You know, and well, like you just said, you got to respect the will of the people.
Yeah.
But he's going to go around and he's going to pat the shoulder of his good, honorable Dominic Sarno there, Mr. Mayor. Thanks for those extra votes, Mr. Sarno. Thank you there. We'll get this legislation. And isn't that always the way it is, though, Mark? Huh? The patronage.
It's sad. I mean, I heard him either today or yesterday, Charlie, talking about some other ballot question where he was talking about respecting the will of the voters, but not on all the ballot questions, on those that he liked,
It's selective outrage. All right, let's get to number 4 here quickly. Sick time earned for employees. The language is relatively clear. It sounds like a good idea, but again, this one-size-fits-all for companies, and it's always this top-down management that seems to come from our government that, okay, you read the language, it's a good idea. Give people 40 hours of paid sick leave, let them earn it like they would earn, their other stuff as they work longer and longer at a job. And there's a provision to roll over what you don't use, which is actually pretty cool. The problem is the numbers here. It says right here, employers of 11 or more people. Let me tell you something. I know you run a company.
Yep.
11 or more people. You're not exactly Mr. Daddy Warbucks there. If your company has 11 people working for you, you're not exactly able to handle these costs. I mean, if you've got maybe 150 employees, or maybe 250. Okay, all right, maybe. Okay, we could probably work it into some budgetary fixing later on next year. But, somebody like you or some of these 11 employees, this isn't going to work for them, is it?
No, and here's the thing, Chris. I like the idea. I just don't think that it should be coming from the government, because once you open the door there, it's going to be, who knows what's going to say the year after that and the year after that. Let me tell you a quick story. I bought my business 5 years ago, and when I started there were guys that were working there 30 years, 25 years, 17 years, 12 years. They obviously liked it there. But coming from where I've been, my experience was their benefits were terrible, absolutely terrible. There is no union there, and I increased the benefits across the board just because it's the right thing to do. And not only that, I mean, if you're in a much bigger business and you've got other competitors that are giving people benefits, there's going to be a migration in the workforce, and you're going to have to raise your benefits to compete and keep good workers.
Exactly.
It's a free market issue is what I'm getting at,
yep.
And it will just by itself. If you've got good companies out there, and I'm thinking about one, maybe you know what, it's a shoe company. Oh, but they're pretty out there and leading edge when it comes to working from home and doing all these different benefits for people in the workplace. And what's going to happen is their other competitors are going to have to start matching that, or else people are going to be leaving there and going to this company.
Right.
It's the free market issue. That's the beauty of it. And to have the government come in and say, no, you have to provide this many sick days, if you have this many employees for this long, and that's not the business of government.
The other thing, too, is a lot of companies, and like you said, it's a free market thing, a lot of companies, that's kind of part of their sell to you as a potential employee that, we've got a great benefit package. We do this, we do that. We give you the sick time here. You can earn this. Oh, and by the way, we've got this thing where if you match this, if you put this money here, we'll match it. So even companies themselves, they're coming up with their own, organic ways of making it, a happier, friendlier, better place for people to come and work there. And you're right. It becomes a free market thing, because if you're, let's say, people are out of work now, so people are pretty much begging for jobs. I've been at a point where it's like, I don't care about your benefit package, just hire me. Just hire me. We can discuss that stuff later. But in a perfect world where it's an employee's market, where it's like, yeah, I've got these skills. What do you got for me? Yeah, it becomes more organic, and the companies it's an incentive for them to create their own way to make it worthwhile for a person to come on. So can you talk about your business? What do you see? This is one thing I really don't know about you. Is like, what is your company? What Go ahead.
Stop by sometime. We're located in Auburn. We just hired our 8th employee last month. We're a metal manufacturer. We don't have, Chris, our own product. We're a contract manufacturer. The more common name is a job shop. So people will design things, but rather than build them, they'll give us their designs, and we'll build what they design. So we're selling our manufacturing services. We shear, bend, roll, punch, water jet cut, grind, weld, finish, and make stuff out of metal. I mean, it's a variety of stuff. It's not the same thing over and over and over. Steel, stainless steel, aluminum.
Wow.
Yeah.
And it's right here, made right here in the USA.
Made right here in the USA, in Auburn. It's like I said, it's small. There's 8 of us, but it's done very well. Love it. Had it now for 5 years. And
so here you go. This is why a question like question 4 would affect you. What'd you say? There's the total of 8 people?
Yeah, so it wouldn't, because we're under that 11 threshold, it wouldn't affect us. But here's the thing. Bigger companies, if they want to move, if they're looking, where are we going to incorporate? It's a new company. Where are we going to incorporate? Massachusetts has a lot of things going for it. It's got a talented workforce, a good education system. But think about what's happened just in the last 2 years with the tech tax. Thank God they shut it down. But now the gas tax is going to be going up incrementally. Minimum wage, which has gone up substantially. And now this sick day thing, this is going to be a barrier to entry coming into the state. Why would they come to Massachusetts when they could go some other place where the costs are lower?
The other thing is the inventory tax. And again, during this season when I was interviewing the candidates, and I didn't know about the inventory tax, it was explained to me by one of the Patty Dolan. It was when Patty Dolan was on the show. And basically he explained it to me, and I said, explain that. It's like, from what I can understand, and I put it in layman's term, I said, basically the state comes in, because you have a warehouse, and they count all the stuff in your warehouse, and you get taxed. And Patty looks at me, and he goes, yep, that's exactly what it is. And so then I did some research, and there are practically zero. There's only a few actual distribution warehouses here in Massachusetts, and they're very small, because Mass is a small state, and they only serve a few local areas. But by and large, most of the distribution companies, the quote-unquote warehouses, where all the convenience stores get their food and all the Target gets their clothing and their stuff, it has to come from a warehouse. That stuff's elsewhere.
Yeah.
It's not here in Mass because of the inventory tax.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, in Massachusetts, I've said this, it's in the center of New England. It'd be ideal for distribution centers to come here. It's perfect. And if the highways going east to west and north to south, it's perfect to serve all of New England. But right, the inventory tax scares them away.
So we've had again, talking to Patty Dolan, I did some more research, since Governor Deval Patrick, we have had either, and I wrote about it in one of my blog pieces, we've had net zero or net negative job growth and population growth. And what I basically said in the blog piece was, quite literally, let's say Joe Schmo out there comes up with a newfangled widget. He's not saying to himself, I'm going to Massachusetts to build my new company.
Exactly.
That's what's happening.
And now you see why, I mean, the Democrats passed this law to allow casino gambling in the state. Because
they got nothing.
They rolled the dice and lost about making it Massachusetts business friendly. They got something else.
Man. So what's next for you, Mark? I've got to ask the question. I'm sure you've are you thinking of another run? What's next for you?
No, I mean, Chris, the whole reason for my running it, I've never been involved in politics, as you well know, is just to show that you can run as a conservative in Massachusetts. It would have probably been a little better to have the backing of your own party, but I didn't. But nonetheless, it was to say you could run in Massachusetts as a conservative and win. A lot of things would have to happen in order for me to even consider it again. And one would be winning this lawsuit and collecting some damages, and then convincing my wife to do this all over again. Until all that happens, I'm going to try to be active in the conservative groups and maybe try to have us coalesce and come together and be a more active voice and have a lot more influence than we do now. I think we are fractured and splintered, but we can have a better effect by coming together. I'm going to try to work in that way.
You have always an open invitation to the show, just as I've always said to you every time we ran into each other. And on top of that, I have been actually asked by some of the members of the board of the Tea Party to have you come and speak at one of our meetings every Thursday night, pretty much down at the Canal Bar. And you can either get hold of me and we can set that up. I can talk to the other guy who plans the events himself, and we can arrange that. And we would love to have you there just to talk to us and just like you did tonight, just talk and answer some of the questions and.
Yeah, my pleasure. I'd love to do that.
And keep me in the loop on what's going on with this event that you're planning.
Oh, yes, please. I will.
Yeah, because I would love. I need to be in the loop because I started a new job, but it's really really nice. I can't name who it is. They're actually very weird about social media and stuff like that. But they they said, they know what I'm doing and they're aware of the show and everything. And I did tell them, I said, I've got a few things coming up, but I'll know at least 2 or 3 weeks ahead of time, what the date is. So yeah, keep me definitely in the loop ahead of time so I can definitely be there and I can film it and we can talk and you know what I'm saying?
Perfect.
All right.
No.
Ladies and gentlemen, 2014 gubernatorial candidate, Republican Mark Fisher. Mark, God bless you, sir. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for running.
Oh, you're very well. My pleasure, actually. It was invigorating.
Okay, very good. Ladies and gentlemen, Mark Fisher. Mark, you have a good night, sir.
You too, Chris. Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye.
All right, who was yelling?
Apparently it's stuck in Big Sunday.
Don't say stuff like that when I'm on the air. I don't think anybody heard you anyway.
Replay it back. You'll go back, it's like, it's loud and clear.
No, not really. Not really. You'd be surprised.
It's good that we don't have an ultra-sensitive mic.
Doesn't make funny. Doesn't make funny.
I was thinking of coming down and like waving a blunt in front of the camera.